And that is the story I tell. Not with words, but with scent. I didn't find this fragrance. It found me, on the peak of Mount Shiranui, in the freezing wind. I realized the soul of this company wasn't a product. It was a vision. Julian smiled, his hand resting on the crystal statuette for Perfumer of the Year. The banquet hall was silent, hanging on his every word. He was accepting the award for ether. Our signature scent. My signature scent. A scent he couldn't have formulated, identified, or even imagined in his wildest dreams. I was sitting at table 28. In the back, near the hum of the kitchen doors. My name, Clara Vance, was not on the program. I was just his +1. I kept my hands folded in my lap. I kept my breathing steady. I just watched him. A magnificent, beautiful lie in a $4,000 tuxedo. He was my business partner, the face of our brand, the man who had found my small, independent lab 3 years ago, and told me, "Clara, you are a genius. You are the hands. I am the voice. Together, we will build an empire." What he meant was, I would build, and he would be the emperor. This award, this wasn't for a cent. It was for my life. Ether was the result of a 3-year, grueling, scientific process. I had synthesized the ether core molecule myself. It wasn't found on a mountain. It was invented in my lab. It was a sterile, agonizing, beautiful breakthrough in organic chemistry. And he was on stage, accepting a trophy for it, while telling a story about a vision quest. He had taken my final, perfect formula and marketed it. That's what he called it. "Clara, darling, your notes are, they're so clinical. Synthetic molecule, 3B. It has no soul. No one wants to buy science. They want to buy magic. They want a story. Let me be the storyteller." I remembered the sacrifice. I remembered the 3 years. While he was at networking dinners in Milan and branding meetings in Paris, I was in my lab until 3 a.m. I was the one sleeping on a cot, surrounded by the smell of my own failures, running trial after trial through the gas chromatograph. I was the one who missed my sister's wedding. I was the one who lived on coffee and protein bars. I poured my entire life into synthesizing a molecule that had never existed before. Julian knew exactly what I had given up. He encouraged it. He'd text me photos from his research trips. "Keep pushing. Darling, the magic is almost there. I'm on the hunt for the inspiration that will match your perspiration." He wasn't hunting. He was vacationing. He was building his alibi. He was waiting for me to perform a miracle so he could invent a vision to explain it. The contrast was nauseating. I looked at my hands. My nails short. My cuticles stained with chemicals. Then I looked at him. He was tan. He was rested. He looked like an artist. A poet. A visionary. He was performing my work. Using my breakthrough. Describing a scent he couldn't even spell the chemical name of. And he was doing it with the effortless charm of a man who believes that any truth he can sell is the only truth that matters. He was stealing my future. And they were admiring his charisma while he did it. I will not let this stand. This is not the end. He hadn't just stolen a formula. He had stolen my identity. I would not scream. I would not cry. I would not give him the satisfaction. I would wait. I would watch. And I would dismantle him. Piece by piece. Using the one thing he always underestimated, my precision. The applause was deafening. He was leaning into the microphone. His face a mask of profound, artistic humility. But a vision is nothing without the hands to build it. And I am so lucky to have the best hands in the business. My stomach clenched. He was going to throw me a bone. I want to thank my brilliant partner, and our brand's lead technician, Clara Vance. He said it. Technician. The room, filled with the greatest noses in the world, filled with critics and CEOs, heard it. He hadn't called me a perfumer. He hadn't called me a creator. He had demoted me. In public. To a mechanic. The woman who mixes the paint. The woman who executes his vision, He had erased my art. I thought about the sacrifice. I thought about the art. Perfumery is not technique. It is my art. It is chemistry. Yes, but it is also music. It is sculpture. It is the agonizing, impossible task of building a memory out of thin air. I had spent 3 years building that scent. I had argued with him for a month over the final note, a specific, synthetic aldehyde that I knew would provide the electric feel he wanted. I found it. I perfected it. I saved the formula. Julian had no idea. He just thought the first trial wasn't poppy enough. He'd sigh head, exasperated. On a call. Clara. Darling. It's dull. You're getting bogged down in the science. You're missing the magic. Let me handle the magic. He was handling the magic. All right. He was on stage, accepting a standing ovation for a symphony I had composed, conducted, and built the instruments for. The lie was so total, so audacious. It was almost impressive. I remembered the day we finalized the bottle. He had promised me, when we first incorporated, Clara Vance, your name, right on the glass. Ether, by Clara Vance. You are the artist. 6 months ago, at the branding meeting, he'd changed his tune. Darling, the focus groups are in, by Clara Vance. It doesn't sing. It feels clinical. But Julian Thorne, that feels like luxury. It's aspirational. It's a lifestyle. Don't worry. We know the truth. This is just the box. When I got the final bottle, my name was nowhere. Not on the glass. Not on the box. It was on the website. If you clicked About Us and scrolled to the bottom, Clara Vance, lead technician. He hadn't just hidden my contribution. He was actively, publicly, and legally erasing it. I will not be erased. He thinks I'm a quiet, clinical introvert. He thinks I'm a naive scientist he can pat on the head. He's forgotten who I am. I am the woman who invented the ether core molecule. I am the 50% owner of this company. He is a house of cards built on my formulas. And I am the one who holds the patent. He was walking off stage now. The heavy crystal statuette held high. The applause was deafening. People were standing. They loved him. They loved the story he told. The story of the romantic visionary who had found the soul of a scent on a dangerous Japanese mountain. He made his way through the tables, shaking hands, accepting kisses. He was heading straight for me. I knew what was coming. The performance of teamwork. He reached table 28. His face flushed with adrenaline and champagne. Clara, he beamed, leaning in. We did it. We really did it. He placed the statuette on the table between us. A barrier of his success. I just looked at it. You look exhausted. Darling, he whispered, his smile tightening just a fraction. You really must get out of that lab. You blend into the tablecloth. He patted my hand. But your work? Honestly, the execution. It was immaculate. Really. Top-notch formulation. I couldn't have created this vision without your precision. Technician. Execution. Precision. He had reduced my art. My soul. My PhD. My entire life's passion. To a mechanical skill. I remembered last winter. I had pneumonia. A 102-degree fever. I was supposed to be in bed. My doctor had ordered me to rest. Julian called me at 10 p.m. on a Sunday. Clara, I'm so sorry. Darling. But the Vogue launch is on Friday. I need the stability reports. I need the final chemical breakdown for the press kit. I'm at this dreadful chalet in Gstaad networking. We all have to make sacrifices. Don't be the one who drops the ball. I got out of bed. I went to the lab. I worked for 2 days. Wrapped in a blanket. My head pounding. My body aching. I finished the reports. I wrote the chemical analysis that would end up in every press release. I wrote the words that he would use to sound like a genius. He'd emailed me back a day later. Thanks, darling. A bit dense. but I'll make it sing. He wasn't in Stad. He'd accidentally left his location tagging on in the photo he sent. He was in Aspen. He was skiing. He'd used my sickness, my loyalty, my work ethic, to steal my labor. And he'd lied about his own vacation to do it. And now, he was standing here, calling that labor execution. He will never do this again. He doesn't get to touch my work. He doesn't get to build his brand on my life. Julian, I said, my voice quiet, but so cold it cut through his champagne buzz. He actually flinched. I stood up. I looked him right in the eye. That was a beautiful story. He relaxed, smiling again. Thank you, Clara. It came from the heart, from the mountain. It must have, I said, because it certainly didn't come from the lab. His smile vanished. I need to check on the new batch, I said. I picked up my clutch. Wait, he hissed, grabbing my arm. He was gripping me. Hard. What did you just say? I looked down at his hand on my arm. You're right, Julian, I said, my voice perfectly neutral. I'm exhausted. I've been working too hard. On the next project. This caught his attention. He let go. His greed was stronger than his anger. The sequel, he whispered. Excited. Aether Noir, did you find it? Did you find the magic again? Magic, I repeated. You mean, did I invent another proprietary molecule? Yes. Wonderful. Perfect, he breathed. My God. This is it. We'll build the whole launch around my new vision. I'm thinking, Iceland, a black glacier, the soul of ice. He was already writing the story. He was already planning his next vacation. But Julian, I said, pausing, you're the CEO. You're the visionary. The new investors. They're auditing everything. They're going to want to see the receipts for the first vision. The Mount Shiranui trip. His face went blank. What? What receipts? Your expense reports. Julian, I said, the ones you filed for your vision quest. The ones for the hotel. The spa. The massages. He just stared at me. He had no idea what I knew. He had no idea I'd seen it. He just handed me the knife. He thinks he's the storyteller. He's about to find out I'm the historian. And I have the primary source. The elevator doors slid shut, encasing us in a small box of mirrored steel. The silence was deafening. Julian's smile was gone, replaced by a cold, tight mask of anger. Don't you ever, he hissed, his voice dropping to a low growl. Speak to me like that again. In public. Do you understand me? I just stood there, my skin crawling. He had just accepted a global award for my life's work. He had just, in front of our entire industry, demoted me to a technician. And he was angry. What receipts, he snapped. The expense reports. It's auditing. Clara, it's just numbers. You're being hysterical. You're letting that technician label get to you. It was a slip of the tongue. You're emotional. He was gaslighting me. He was standing there, holding the crystal statuette I had earned, and telling me I was emotional. He wasn't worried he'd been caught. He was angry that the help had spoken out of turn. He has no idea. He thinks I'm hysterical. He's about to find out I'm historical. This wasn't the first time he'd stolen a story. This was just the biggest. The very first perfume we ever launched. L'Ombre. It was the scent that got us our first investor. He tells the story at every press event. He says he designed it for his mother. A tribute to her elegance. That was my perfume. I made it for my mother. When she was sick, it was the last thing I ever gave her before she passed. It was a private, sacred, agonizing act of love. I had spent 6 months synthesizing the exact smell of the freesia from her wedding bouquet. A flower that was no longer commercially grown. It was her. I was naive. I was grieving. I told him the story. Weeping. In my lab. holding the first trial bottle. He'd held my hand. His eyes full of sympathy. He said, "Clara, this is the soul we need. It's beautiful. It's our heart." Then, at the launch party, he took the microphone. I was inspired by my own mother. It's a tribute to her strength. When I confronted him later, my voice shaking, he'd looked at me, exasperated. "Darling, it's marketing. Sick mother is a downer. My mother. The muse is elegant. We're selling a dream, not your grief. Be practical. We're rich because of that dream." He had taken my grief, the most sacred part of my life, repackaged it, and sold it for $200 a bottle. He didn't just steal a formula. He stole my mother's memory. He will never, ever do that again. He called my work execution. He called me a technician. He stood on that stage and told a story about finding my work on a mountain. He had no idea what it took. 3 years. It wasn't inspiration. It was failure. It was a sterile, windowless room. At 2 a.m. It was trial 407, which smelled like burning rubber and made my eyes water. It was trial 1012, which smelled like rotten eggs and cost us a week. It was me, at 4 a.m., weeping over a failed synthesis. My hands shaking so badly, I couldn't hold the test tube. It was chemistry, brutal, unforgiving, sterile, agonizing chemistry. And then, the breakthrough, the aether core molecule. It was trial 2118. It smelled like nothing on Earth, like static electricity and cold air, like possibility. I showed it to him. He was baffled. "What is it?" he'd asked, sniffing the test strip. "It's weird. It's new." I said, "It's a novel aldehyde. It's ours." A week later, he announced he was going on a vision quest to Japan to find the soul of this new scent. He was going to commune with it. He sent me photos from the mountain, photos of him, looking pensive and windswept. "Inexpensive hiking here. It's brutal up here. Clara. But I'm finding the truth." While I was in the lab for 90 hours a week, stabilizing the molecule, I was figuring out how to produce it. He was building his legend on my labor. He thinks technician is an insult. He's about to find out that the technician is the only one who knows the truth. He called me his +1. He called me lead technician. I am 50% owner of this company. I didn't just provide the formulas. I provided the capital. When we started, he was broke. He had charm and a good suit and a lot of debt from his lifestyle. I had my inheritance from my mother. I had my lab. I had the patents for l'ombre. I put up everything. He had convinced me, "Clara, you're the artist. You're the nose. You can't be bogged down with numbers. It will stifle your gift. Let me be the CEO. Let me handle the business. You just create." He gave himself the CEO title and total control over the finances. He pays me a salary. For my own company, he flies first class. He stays at the Four Seasons for networking. My lab. Last month, he told me we couldn't afford the new gas chromatograph I needed, the one that would cut my R&D time in half. He denied me the tools for my work. While spending my money on his luxury, he wasn't just my partner, he was my embezzler. He thinks he controls the money. He forgot I'm the one who signs the patent licenses. He's about to learn what a hostile takeover looks like. The elevator doors opened. We were back at the office. It was 1 a.m., but the junior marketing team was waiting for him. They had champagne. They had a congratulations. Julian banner. They cheered as he walked in, holding the statuette high. "Congratulations. Julian, you're a visionary. Your speech. It was art. They didn't even look at me. And I trained them. I trained the marketing team. I sat with them for days, teaching them the chemistry, teaching them the language of olfaction, so they could write intelligent copy. I taught them the difference between an aldehyde and an ester. Julian had been poisoning them. I knew he had. He'd take them for expensive drinks. He'd tell them, Clara is a genius. But she's just so sensitive, so clinical. She doesn't get the branding. I have to protect her from the business side. I have to be the bad guy for her. He had framed my focus as a weakness. He framed his detachment as strength. He was the cool boss. The visionary. I was the difficult scientist in the lab coat. He was using the profits from my formulas to buy their loyalty. To isolate me in my own company. He thinks they're his team. He's about to find out they're just employees. And I'm the one who owns the IP they're selling. He was high on his own success. He'd forgotten my comment about the receipts. He was back in his performance. He poured himself another glass of champagne from the bottle the team had bought him. Okay, Clara, he said, walking into his corner office. I followed. We're legends. Now, do it again? I stood in the doorway. Do what again? The magic, he said, spreading his hands wide. Ether Noir. The sequel. The investors are hungry. They want it by Q3. I need magic. Darling, I'm thinking Iceland. A black glacier. The soul of ice. Go find me an ice molecule. Go find me an ice molecule. He said it as if I was picking up groceries. As if my 3-year, agonizing scientific breakthrough was something I could just do again on command. He didn't see the labor. He didn't see the science. He just saw a product. He was already at his desk, spinning his globe. I'll head to Reykjavik next month. I need to feel the ice. I need to find the story. You handle the lab? Find me something dark and poppy. Something that sings. He was already planning his next vacation. His next vision quest. Based on a miracle I hadn't even performed yet. He was going to go get a massage in Iceland, while I was supposed to invent another impossible molecule to fund his trip. He wants a story. I'm going to give him one. It's not about a glacier. It's about a spa receipt. Technician. He'd said it in front of everyone. In front of Anne Dubois, the critic from Le Monde, whose opinion could make or break a brand. In front of the rivals I had spent my life trying to earn the respect of. My entire life. My PhD in organic chemistry. My postdoc at the Grass Institute of Perfumery. My life's work. I am a nose. It is one of the most difficult, elite professions in the world. It is a title I bled for. He knew what that word meant. He knew it was a mortal insult in our world. He did it on purpose. To remind me of my place. To remind me that he was the star, and I was the hands. He sat there, accepting an award for Perfumer of the Year, while publicly demoting the actual perfumer to a technician. The arrogance was breathtaking. He wasn't just stealing. He was spiking the ball. I'll get right on it. Julian, I said. I left him in his office, celebrating with his team. I didn't go home. I went to my lab. He sat at my desk, the chemical smell of my failures and my successes filling my lungs. I turned on my computer. I didn't open the formulation software. I didn't open my research notes. I opened the company's shared drive. I went to the finance folder, then expense reports, then Julian Thorne, then 2023. He thinks I'm a technician. He forgot technicians are the only ones who know how to run the machines, and I am about to run the diagnostics on him. I opened the file Q2, Japan, Vision Quest. He sat at my desk. The lab silent around me. The only sound the hum of the ventilation system. My hands weren't shaking. They were perfectly still. This was not a moment of passion. It was a chemical titration. I was adding the reagent. Drop by drop. Waiting for the solution to change color. I opened the folder. Q2, Japan, Vision Quest. The first file was the hotel receipt. The Grand Palace, Tokyo. $1,200 a night. For 7 nights. I thought about the new gas chromatograph I'd begged him for. The one we couldn't afford. It cost $8,000. The exact same price as his hotel bill. He hadn't just denied me the tools for my work. He had slept in them. He had stayed at the Grand Palace and claimed he was on a mountain. I pulled up the map. The hotel was in the dead center of Tokyo. Mount Shiranui was a 5-hour train ride away. I kept scrolling. The dates? They matched perfectly. The week he was communing with the scent. The week he was sending me photos of himself in expensive, wind-proof gear. Looking pensively at a distant peak. It's brutal up here. Clara. The text had read, but I'm finding the truth. I opened the next file. Meals, entertainment. $5,000. A single charge from a nightclub in Roppongi. A $400 dinner. Another. I thought about the last research trip I had taken. I had to find a rare, specific tincture of vetiver. The only supplier was in Louisiana. I'd stayed at a $60 a night motel. I ate at a gas station. He had approved my expense report with a note. Let's try to keep R&D trim. Darling. He was trimming my R&D budget so he could fund his nightclubbing. He was literally, physically, stealing the resources from my lab, my art, and converting them into champagne and networking. He thinks I'm his technician. He thinks I'm his hands. He's about to find out the hands are the ones who sign the checks. I kept scrolling, and then I saw it. The final file in the folder. A file I don't think he even knew his assistant had scanned. It wasn't just a line item. It was the itemized receipt. Sakura Wellness Spa, Resort Tokyo. The charge was for $3,500. I clicked. The receipt opened. It was a PDF. My blood didn't run cold. It turned to ice. It wasn't a single massage. It was a 3-day Imperial Wellness package. Item 1X, Shogun's Reposes Massage, 120 minutes. Item 1, X Volcanic Ash Body Wrap. Item 1X, 10 Garden Facial. Item 3, X Day Pass, Private Meditation Chambers. I looked at the date on the receipt. The exact date. The date of the volcanic ash body wrap. It was the same day he had sent me the photo from the mountain. It was the same day he texted me. It's brutal up here. It was the same day I was in my lab, with a 102-degree fever, finishing the stability reports for the Vogue launch, the launch he had forgotten about, the work he had lied about his own location to get me to do. He wasn't on a mountain. He wasn't communing with the soul of my work. He was lying naked on a table, covered in volcanic ash, while I was sick, doing his job, stabilizing the miracle he was building his entire fraudulent life on. This was the ultimate, most grotesque, most vile contrast. He was not just a thief. He was not just a liar. He was a parasite. He had attached himself to my labor, my intellect, my health, and was sucking the life out of me to fund his spa days. He didn't just tell a story. He was the story of a hollow, empty, worthless fraud. He hadn't found the soul of the company. He had outsourced it. He'd outsourced the labor to me, and the vision to a spa menu. I will not let him have my company. I will not let him have my work. I will not let him have my mother's memory. He wants to be a legend. I am going to make him an anecdote, a cautionary tale. I didn't just save the file. I saved everything. I saved the spa receipt. I saved his bar tabs. I saved the first-class flight itinerary. I saved his email from Aspen, the one where he lied about being in Gstaad. I saved the email where he called my mother's perfume a downer. I saved the email where he denied my request for the new chromatograph, citing budgetary concerns. I put them all into a single, neat, password-protected folder. The technician was very, very precise. Then, I opened my email. I thought about the awards ceremony. I thought about the faces in the crowd. I thought about Anne Dubois, the critic from Le Monde. She was legendary. She was ruthless. She had destroyed brands. Major brands. For less. For using a synthetic ingredient when they claimed it was natural. Julian had invented a mountain. Anne Dubois hated frauds more than she loved perfume, and she had been watching Julian's speech with a look of profound, undisguised boredom. She didn't buy the vision story. She just didn't have the proof. I found her private email address. It wasn't hard. The technician was also a very good researcher. I started a new draft. The subject line was simple. The vision behind Ether. Your next story. The body of the email was even simpler. Dear Ms. Dubois, I am Clara Vance, the technician from last night's awards. Julian Thorne is launching a sequel to Ether. He's calling it Ether Noir. His inspiration, he says, is an Icelandic black glacier. Before he tells that story, I thought you might like to see the real story behind the first one. Attached, you will find 2 files. His Instagram post from his brutal vision quest on Mount Shiranui, his itemized spa receipt from Tokyo for the exact same day. He wasn't finding the soul of my perfume. He was getting a volcanic ash body wrap. He is not a visionary. He is a fraud, and he is about to announce his vision for Ether Noir at the Global Fragrance Summit in 2 weeks. I thought you might want to be there. Regards, Clara Vance, the real perfumer. I attached the 2 files, the brutal mountain photo, the luxurious spa receipt, side by side. I hovered over the send button. This was it. This was the match. He had built his entire empire out of my work. A beautiful glass palace. And I was about to throw the first stone. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just working. I hit send. The 2 weeks leading up to the Global Fragrance Summit were the quietest of my life. I went to the lab. I worked. I perfected the formula for the Ether Noir sequel. I renamed it Molecule 2118. My original trial number. The truth. Julian was electric. He was never in the office. He was in strategy meetings, branding huddles, and press previews. He was building the legend of the Black Glacier. He sent an all-staff memo. Get ready. Team, we are about to make history. Again. He didn't speak to me. He didn't need to. I was just the technician. The hands. He assumed I was in the lab, dutifully mixing his ice molecule. He was right. I was. But I was also exchanging daily. Encrypted emails with Anne Dubois. The day of the summit. The main hall at the convention center was packed. This was the biggest event of the year. Buyers from every major department store. Critics from every global magazine. And, in the front row, a new, powerful group of investors Julian had been courting for our global expansion. I stood in the back, near the sound booth. Invisible, I was wearing a simple, black lab coat over my dress. I was not a guest. I was here to work. At 2 p.m., the lights dimmed. A video started. It was magnificent. Sweeping drone shots of Icelandic glaciers, crashing waves, black sand beaches, and then Julian, walking on the ice, looking pensive. His coat collar turned up. It was the footage from his vision quest last month, the one he took while I was inventing the molecule. The video faded to black. The spotlight hit the podium, and Julian walked out. To thunderous applause. He was a master. He let the applause wash over him. He looked humbled. He looked powerful. Thank you, he said, his voice a low, resonating baritone. Thank you. What is a fragrance? Is it just scent? No. It is a story. It is a soul. 2 years ago, I went to a mountain in Japan, and I found a vision. Today, I have returned from a new journey. He was loving this. He was feeding on it. I went to Iceland. I went to the Black Glaciers. I went to find the soul of ice, the fire in the cold, and in that frozen, beautiful, brutal landscape. It found me. He was doing it. He was telling the exact same lie. He was using the exact same script. He was a performer with only one show. He held up a beautiful, black, matte bottle. I give you Ether Noir, the soul of the glacier, a story of beautiful, dark, isolation. A beautiful story. Monsieur Thorne, The voice cut through the silence like a diamond cutter. It was French. It was cold. It was amplified. Julian froze. He squinted into the darkness of the audience. I'm sorry. Who? A second spotlight hit the center aisle. Anne Dubois, the critic from Le Monde, was standing, holding a wireless microphone. She was not smiling. Your stories are magnifique, she said, her voice dripping with journalistic ice, almost as legendary as your first vision quest, the one for Aether. Julian laughed. A tight, nervous sound. Anne. Yes. Mount Shiranui. A brutal trip. But the muse calls. The muse, Anne repeated. Or the menu. The giant screen behind Julian, which had been showing the Aether Noir bottle, suddenly flickered. It was now showing two images, side by side. On the left, Julian's windswept, brutal Instagram post from the mountain. On the right, the high-resolution, itemized PDF of the Sakura Wellness Spa receipt. The room was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Anne Dubois' voice was clear and precise. Monsieur Thorne, I see the volcanic ash body wrap. I see the Shogun's Reposes massage. The world is dying to know. Did you find the soul of Aether? Before or after your Zen garden facial? Julian stopped, breathing. He turned. He saw the screen. He saw the receipt. His face. The tan, rested, visionary face. It just collapsed. It went from tan to a pale, mottled, sickly gray, the color of ash. That, he stammered. That is, it's a fabrication. It's a lie. That's not. He was sputtering. The charm had vanished. The visionary was gone. There was just a small, terrified, pale man in an expensive suit. A fabrication Anne continued. The credit card charge. The one from your own company's expense report. The one filed the same day you told your technician you were on a mountain. The investors in the front row, the new ones, were looking at each other. One of them, a woman with iron-gray hair, stood up. A Fraut, she said, her voice loud enough for the entire front section to hear. He's been lying about his core IP. Julian was hyperventilating. He looked out, his eyes wild, searching. Desperate. He was looking for me. Clara, he shouted, his voice cracking. Clara, tell them it's a lie. Tell them about the work, Clara. Help me. He had just called my name. The technician, the hands, the +1. He was begging the help to save him. I stepped out from the shadows of the sound booth. I was not holding a microphone. I didn't need one. I just met his gaze from across the room. I said nothing. My silence was his answer. It was the truth. And one more thing. Monsieur, Anne Dubois said, her voice like a hammer. The technician you insulted at the awards, the hands you so graciously thanked. It seems, Monsieur Thorne, that Clara Vance is not just the 50% owner of this company. She is the sole patent holder for the ether core molecule. The entire room turned to look at me. The investors, the press, the buyers. Ms. Vance, Anne called out, turning to me. As the true perfumer, as the real nose, and as the owner of the intellectual property, do you have a comment on this black glacier? I took a breath. I walked down the aisle, past the shocked faces, past the whispers. I walked right past Julian, who was still frozen on the stage. A ghost. I took the microphone from Anne Dubois. I looked at the crowd. Yes, I said, my voice clear and steady, amplified in the silent room. Julian is right about one thing. He is a magnificent storyteller, but I am the author. I looked at him, at the shell of the man who had stolen my mother's memory, and his story is finished. I turned back to the audience. Vance Perfumes is ending its partnership with Mr. Thorne. Effective. Immediately. He is not a visionary. He is an expense report. The ether core molecule is my intellectual property. The ether brand is mine. I held up the small, simple, glass vial I had in my lab coat pocket, and we will be launching our new scent this fall. It is not called Aether Noir. It is called Molecule 2118. Because the truth, I said, looking at the investors, is the only story that matters. Julian made a sound. A high, a strangled sob. He didn't just collapse. He imploded. He was not escorted out by security. He was surrounded by the furious investors, who were shouting at him about material misrepresentation and fraud. He was a dead man. The press, the real press, swarmed me. Anne Dubois was at my side, her face alight. Tell me everything. Cherie, she said, tell me about the science. I stood there, under the hot, bright lights. The technician in the black lab coat. I didn't just get my company back. I didn't just get my money back. I got my name back. I am not the hands. I am the nose. And I am the one who built the empire. Subscribe for more shocking, real-life inspired stories. Share and subscribe for more dramatic, twist-filled short stories. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update.